everybody, I'm back again with another tutorial. Today I'm going to be talking about drum mixing again. I've had a lot of requests to talk about how I set up and process Superior Drummer's stock kit, the New York Avatar kit. And I figured I would format this in a similar manner to the Get Good Drums video I released a while ago. Essentially playing a finished product, playing the raw tones, and just narrating what I do, the step-by-step process as I go along. So if anyone watching's new to Superior, just bought it, or is just looking for some little tips and hints to just make it come to life more, I hope this video can be really helpful. So the MIDI performance I'm going to use is from that song you just heard in the intro. It's called Schlip. It's one of my own tunes. And first I'm going to play the printed raw tones when you just load up Superior Drummer. Then I'm going to show you the mix that I achieved just using the Superior Drummer software. No extra samples or anything. Alright, so hopefully the difference is noticeable there. This is going to be a very long-winded topic, so I'm going to split this into as many parts as it takes. I haven't decided how many yet. So here I have the default Superior Drummer loaded up on this MIDI roll here. And before I get into the actual software, I just want to really quickly talk about the velocities I tend to have. So the kick drum, it's about 120 to 125-ish. I don't like it when it's all the way up to 127 just because I feel like the low end gets lost a little and the click is a little overbearing. The snare, however, I do like at 127 for this type of music just because I really want it to pop out as much as possible. The cymbals, I go anywhere from 90% to 100%. A lot of the crashes and such will be at around 100%, while the hi-hat is a little bit less. That can also sound pretty overbearing if you push it too hard. And the toms, I have roughly the same as the kick drum. I don't like to go all the way for the same reason. I feel like the stick hit gets a little overbearing there. First things first, I'm going to change a couple cymbals up, get the ones that I prefer, and then get a individual fader balance of each of the cymbals, which you can do with these faders that correspond to each one. So since I added a cymbal here, I'm going to use the learn function here. So once I click on that and the green light's there, I'm going to find the MIDI node where I know it will be, and I just hit it on the piano roll here, and now it will be assigned to that key. Now I'm going to change the snare drum to the Slingerland, and I'm going to use the envelope editor, which I'm a huge fan of, and really choke the sustain on it. Because what I'm going to do is X-drum in another snare drum from the same Avatar kit, this one being the Near Z Custom. And I'm going to sum those two snare drums together because I've always favored the initial transient attack of the Slingerland drum, and I've always been leaning towards the sustain here of this. So I figured I would do just the best of both worlds. I'm also going to use the envelope tool to get a little bit of sustain off of the toms. And at first it may seem a little much, but once I start doing the extra processing like compression and reverb, this sustain here will be a little overbearing to me, and I want to just tame that right away. One last thing with the X drum here, I'm going to utilize the microphone assignment, and I'm going to make a separate track in the mixer that contains the room mics and overhead of that snare drum, while leaving the actual close mics layered on top of the same close mic tracks as the original. I like to have a separate control of the room sound of the second drum because I like to do some special processing to this track here, which you will see later on. So now I'm going to take all these individual mics and I'm going to route them to 7 different stereo buses. So what I did there is took all the kick mics, sent it to bus 1 and 2, all the snares to 3 and 4, the hi-hat make its own stereo bus 5 and 6, and all the toms will be 7 and 8, overheads 9 and 10, and the ambience will be 11 and 12. I go ahead and just get rid of the other ones following that because I just never use them. This last one here is the room track of the second snare drum like I mentioned before, and that's going to be its own bus. And now I'm going to take the buses and send them out to the corresponding numbered output. And what that means is when I go to my mixer in the DAW, I can click these. I'll now have separate outputs. So I'm going to go ahead and name the tracks in the DAW so we don't get confused. And while I'm at it, I'll just go ahead and sum these guys to a drum kit bus. Now I'm just going to do all the things as I remember them that I know I like to do with this kit. First off, I just mute all the snare bottom bleed as I'm just not a fan of it and I might as well take advantage of that feature. I get rid of all the kick bleed into the rooms specifically. I'll leave a little bit in the overhead so it can sound more like an actual kit. I don't use the kick sub at all. It doesn't contribute anything to me personally. So that's gone. And while I'm thinking about it, I'm going to get a rough fader balance with the buses here. Just some subtle movements, but I want things to be balanced more the way they sound in my head. So I'm going to shape the kick drum a little bit using the kick in and out. The in's good, it has a lot of the low end and the click's really apparent. But I feel like there is some lower mid-range that's not powerful or it's missing, and I feel like the kick out has a lot of potential to fill that in. However, the kick out is also very resonant, and that's not something I really want. So I'm going to just do a couple moves here to just shape the kick out so it can really benefit the in mic and just make the kick drum just sound a lot stronger. Cool, it's already sounding a lot fuller. I know some people tend to not favor that lower mid sound, but in the mix I really enjoy when it's able to cut there. And while I'm at it, I might as well do a little EQ on the in. So before and after. Cool. So moving on to the snare, I'm gonna do a similar process, just make some tweaks that just sounds more to my liking before I start doing the heavy processing. already hear some, I think about 5K that can go away in the snare bottom. So again, those three mics are the close mics of both drums. The toms, I just go ahead and go straight to the bus and do EQ there. I'm going to change the panning slightly, just make them a little bit wider. So I'm going to go ahead and just stop here for part one. If I move too fast or if there's something you want me to explain further, just leave a comment in the comment section. And thanks for watching, you guys. I really appreciate it. And stay tuned for part two, where I'm just going to keep going further and further down this rabbit hole here.